Doing pretty good. Just hope that this year there's actually room on the board to actually, not die in the ice water.
Well, as long as you don't offer to paint me like one of the French models, I'll be okay.
Oh, that's never gonna happen. You're okay.
All right, Fresh. Winners and losers from this past weekend. Who do you got? Let's start in the winner area. I'll let you go first.
First big winner, Oregon. I mean, both of us kind of had UCLA going to that ball game. We thought they were on a good run, and Dan Lanning and those Oregon Ducks, they showed up, and especially the good Bo Nix. Bo Nix went off. Um, Great throws, great reads. Elusive in the pocket. He was what everyone at Auburn kind of hoped they would have always had, and the ability he's shown at times when he was at Auburn, he finally flashed it. And that Oregon team right now, they've won every single game since that opener versus Georgia, and they're scoring over 40 points a game. And they're rolling people. So that program is heading in the right direction. They are steamrolling it, folks. And that win over UCLA, they took down DTR, they took down Bobo, they took down Charbonnet. It was they made sure that UCLA knew that they still were in charge, and they still were one of the dominant programs that's not going anywhere in the Pac-12. Great job all across the board there by the Ducks, and big things are coming their way if they keep playing like that.
Offensively, the Oregon just completely put the boots to UCLA. The only thing that really bugged me about Oregon is they gave up 150 yards on 20 carries to Charbonnet. But other than that, they really frustrated DTR all game long. You see him throwing an interception in this game. He doesn't even get going running the ball either. He only had 38 yards rushing from a guy who is routinely in the anywhere from 60, 70, 80 yards rushing at times and really making the plays with his legs. But, you know, I got to give credit. We thought Bo Nix was going to be a kind of like crumble in a big game pressure, and he didn't. So good job on him.
And just one thing, you think about it, of all things that happen, USC has a conference loss, Utah has a conference loss, UCLA has a conference loss, Oregon, they had the loss to Georgia, but they don't have a conference loss. So right now they are riding high in the Pac.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Fresh. I'm going to go all the way down and keep it funky like a monkey and go to Fort Worth where we're keeping it funky at all times there. TCU Horned Frogs, huge win over the Kansas State Wildcats, absolutely dominating that game. I've been so impressed because, it looked like, I shouldn't say absolutely dominating. They're down 28-17 at halftime. And then the defense stops Adrian Martinez. He gets knocked out of this game. Will Howard has to come in for this game. All of a sudden, that's when they start clicking. Miller gets going. Duggan gets going. This whole TCU team is getting really interesting. And you look at what TCU's got in front of them, what challenges they have coming up. They are seriously the class of the Big 12 right now. You know that Texas losing, Oklahoma's not what we thought they would be. Kansas State now it's just lost to TCU. Oklahoma State, see that previous week. I love this TCU team. This TCU team reminds me a lot of last year's Cincinnati team, where they just came out of nowhere and just are beating the brakes off of everybody. So, love the Horned Frogs, man, and I can't wait to see what comes up for this final stretch run for them.
I mean, it's just the craziest thing where last year they had 3 wins. They fired their coach who they have a statue of and has taken them to the Rose Bowl, had them, in the conversation for a playoff bid and all fun stuff and really put TCU on the map. And then they come in, and this team just completely flips the switch, and they are playing absolutely. They even lost Zach Evans, who has been doing great, Ole Miss, and this team is just flying high and making plays offensively. And you know, there's a little funny thing. There's Lincoln Riley's younger brother is the offensive coordinator, so obviously the offensive genius is coming through that same kind of pipeline. So expect him to be in the conversation for head coaching jobs here soon. With that way he's manipulated the offense and got them flowing. But Sonny Dykes, the way he's got that program in the right direction, sort of repivoted after last year. It's big time things there in Fort Worth. They're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, they got a sneaky good game coming up this weekend. They have to travel to Morgantown to face a dangerous Volunteers team. I know that West Virginia isn't as good as maybe TCU, but they are a very, very dangerous team. All right, Fresh, who else do you got?
Going to give credit to LSU. Brian Kelly. We all kind of laughed at you when you showed up on campus. We kind of were giving you all the business after losing to Florida State and all that nonsense. But you guys have just come in and made LSU relevant in a very quick time frame and are back on the map. And you didn't just beat Ole Miss. You took the second half and you thumped them. You thumped them good, putting up 44 on Ole Miss and only giving up 20 something to that offense. Lane Kiffin, um, Tiger Stadium was rocking, and actually, come 2 weeks they host Alabama. Um, I'm just saying, there it's going to be a tougher game for the Tide because LSU. This is not the past 2 years where that team was sort of downtrodden and dealing with chaos everywhere. They have righted the ship. Brian Kelly and that coaching staff have got there. The receivers on all levels. Jaden Daniels is playing well, and the defense is flying around, playing like LSU defense of old. So this team, they that was their big on the map win. I think they beat Mississippi State. They beat out, Ole Miss. They own the state right there. But they are heading in the right direction. And if they can just continue to build recruiting, I don't think just this year, but going forward, wins are boosting that direction of the team and showing that he's the right head coach and he has the guys in place. LSU might be back a lot quicker than we thought on a full level. But right now, big win over Ole Miss. Put yourself back in there in the contention. And balls balanced the right way. They could actually somehow uh, seriously end up in Atlanta and play for a title.
All right, Fresh. That game shocked me the most, actually. I think after I was looking at everything, I was kind of flipping through different scores. And I didn't watch the LSU Ole Miss game, and all of a sudden the scores flash up there. I was like, "Are you kidding me? LSU beat Ole Miss today? That is impressive." Fresh. My next winner is the Cincinnati Bearcats. Man, they lose that opening week to Arkansas to the Razorbacks, and Cincinnati, they lost so much last season, but they've come back and they've made a nice little run here. They're 3-0 in the American. They're 6-1 overall right now, and they went down there to SMU. And SMU was not an easy team to play. They're a team that's with Tanner Mordecai is going to throw the ball all over the place. They're going to wind up really trying to put some offensive stats up on that board really, really quickly on a team. Uh, I know that there's a little bit of animosity going on there at SMU. I get that, but Cincinnati has really shown a great job of losing all of these players from the beginning from last season. They're able to kind of, I don't want to say just replace them, but kind of turned into that next man up coaches talk right there. And they've looked good. They've looked good. Is this a team that I think is going to a playoff? No. But do I think this is a team that is going to wind up maybe being that non-power five New Year's Day 6 bowl game? Absolutely. So Luke Fickle, great coaching job right there. And if I have a head coach opening in a Power Five, I'm going after Fickle.
I mean, he's built that program to sustain, year in and year out, and that just shows that the quality of coaching, the recruiting, and locking down Cincinnati in that area and building a recruiting base there, and then going out and get talent where you need to. But he has done a fantastic job, and it's going to be only going up from there.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, who you got next?
Well, this one was I kind of had battle back and forth. I don't know if the winner is Illinois, that they didn't even play this week, or Wisconsin. But let me set the scene. Coming into the week, Purdue and Illinois both were 3-1. Purdue had actually a much clearer path. They play Illinois later, but Illinois also has to play Michigan. So Purdue, in essence, if they win at, maybe even lose to Illinois, but they could have somehow found themselves representing the West if they had played great football down the stretch. But lo and behold, they go to Madison and they don't just get beat, they got owned. It was at one point it was 35-10, I think. They were dominating Purdue. Badgers looked like 2012 Badger football team. They ran the football with authority. The defense played well. They threw the football around the field. They had no issues with Purdue at all. So Purdue, you blew a chance at really having a chance to sneaky get to to Indianapolis and play for a title. And you gave Illinois even more room for error. Now Purdue, you're technically still live in that race, but you choked. The Badgers actually put themselves back in somewhat of a conversation to finish it in a decent order. Um, but Illinois was given the biggest gift of all because now, even if they lose to Michigan, they still have an extra buffer over anyone else in the league. So you might as well just pencil in Illinois to take on whoever from the East. in the Big Ten title game because Purdue, you choked, but Wisconsin looked fantastic. So that was kind of a loser winner combination there. But it was just the the Big Ten West and outside of it is just an unknown disaster. And Illinois is going to reap the benefits, and they're the best football team hands down in that side, the bracket.
Great job to finally see Wisconsin, picking themselves off the mat and throwing some haymakers back there.
It
So,
was weird seeing Graham Mertz complete passes to the right team
yeah. And they didn't get benched like Spencer Petras in the Ohio State game. All right,
or
man.
DJU.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Fresh. Another game I'm going to, and this was I thought about for a hot second of making the other team a loser for this week, but I didn't want to take away with what the other team did, and that's the Liberty Flames. 7-1 on the year, 4-0, beating the absolutely destroying BYU. The Cougars got boat raced in this game. BYU is up 14-3 at the end of the first. And then from there, Liberty goes on a 38-0 run starting in the second quarter. Jonathan Bennett, absolutely electric, goes 24 of 29 for 2 touchdowns as well. They also, Day Hunter, or goes for 213 and a touchdown, man. Liberty did everything that they wanted against BYU. I'm shocked that the Cougars weren't better than this because I thought, going into this year, I was high on BYU. I thought BYU would be much better, but Liberty just kind of just embarrassed them. So, definitely got to keep an eye out for the Liberty Flames, man. That's an interesting team to watch sitting there at 7-1. And with their only loss being a 1 point loss to Wake Forest, they got Arkansas in 2 weeks. And lo and behold, what would our conversation be if they go into Arkansas and upset Arkansas?
Well, I think at that point, you're a top 25 team, and they might actually, give Cincinnati a run for the best, group of five.
Yeah.
Or actually, I think they're independent, so that actually would take them out of the conversation. But still, been impressive. And side note, how wrong were we about BYU?
Yeah.
Whoa, woof. Oh, that, yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. Guy more winners?
It was, you know what? I'm gonna give a win to South Carolina. Early in the season, they got thumped, embarrassed, destroyed by Georgia, and they have not lost since. That was 4 weeks ago, and they came in and they beat the junk out of A&M. And the way Shane Beamer could have had that team fall apart and sort of lose the focus, he rallied them, got the team going in the right direction. Spencer Rattler and that offense sort of found their identity, and they're back in the top 25. Actually, they're in the top 25. They haven't been before, but top number 25 in the country, moving the right direction. They got Missouri coming in town this week, and they might be at first, I thought Tennessee would probably look at them later down the stretch of, oh, that's a gimme win, but you never know. That game could be a little tricky, late season game for Tennessee too, no matter what happens in the next couple of weeks. But that's a South Carolina making moves and very impressive by Shane Beamer to keep that team organized and moving in the right direction after some early struggles.
So, Fresh, I'll kind of segue here because I got a winner and a loser in the same game. And I got to give it up for the Duke Blue Devils going down into Coral Gables. And this is the second year in a row that a team has come down into Miami and absolutely destroyed Miami. I mean, absolutely destroyed them. And you think about this is last year we saw Michigan State come down and Kenneth is kind of like the announcement of Kenneth Walker the third. He absolutely runs all up and down the U, and it's not even funny. This is Duke, and this isn't a basketball matchup. This isn't a top 25 like late January, early February basketball game. No, this is football where Miami should never ever lose to Duke. But the Blue Devils, they did everything they had to do to win. You take a look, 3 interceptions by the Hurricanes, man. Turned the ball over left and right. One of those was taken back for a touchdown right there. Um, I don't know. They recovered 5 fumbles. The Blue Devils recovered 5 fumbles from the Hurricanes. And then put on top of it, that means Miami turned the ball over 8 times. 8 times in this game. I would love to know what the modern day, like from 1950 onward or 1960 onward, whatever you consider modern day football. When when was the most amount of turnovers in a game? In a D1 game, I should say that. I'm telling you, man, winner is the Duke Blue Devils, loser Miami Hurricane. You know, it's funny because Mario Cristobal leaves Oregon, and Oregon's sitting there at 6-1 now, I think. And he thinks, "Oh, I'm coming home, be great, Miami." And Miami's struggling, man. And we were high. We thought, Tyler Van Dyke would be great. He's kind of dropped off the face of the earth. Jake Garcia, he's And then you have all of these other just guys. Like I'm waiting for Miami to get back, and it doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon.
Are they even worthy to be called hurricanes? Like, they're not even tropical storms. Are they a thunderstorm or just like an afternoon rain at this point? Like,
There's
it's bad.
their Florida summer shower.
Florida summer shower, like a 3 o'clock to 3:15.
Yep, where you could set your watch by it.
I mean, it's I don't know his talent. Is it Cristobal? Like there's got to be some players at Miami. You just got to bring them all together. Uh, if Cristobal is not getting the message through, or he's just not the coaching staff's communicating. The players aren't there. They're not focused. They look ahead. They're not locked in for the game. It's a mess. You kind of gave them like, oh yeah, the Southern Miss game. They were looking ahead to A&M, and then they offense played bad versus A&M. And then it kind of just sort of tumbled from there. They got beat by UNC, and then the Duke loss is inexplicable. And it's Mario Cristobal. A lot of Oregon fans on Twitter came out and they were like, "Hey, LOL, look at you. You're getting beat by Duke, and we're over here taking out UCLA."
Yeah.
So that's a program shaker right there. I think.
One beating a basketball school, the other losing to a basketball school. All right, Fresh, who you got as a loser?
Um, First loser, UCF. You know, Gus Malzahn. You have chances. You're supposed to have this program back, um, or at least in a great spot there. Be challenged. Cincinnati for a playoff bid or even for the conference championship, and you go up to East Carolina. You talk trash about barbecue, and then you don't just lose. That night squad got destroyed by the Pirates. Um, it was kind of like you know I don't know, Pirates of the Caribbean, but they were storming, they were swinging off the ropes and taking people out in the fort and stealing all the gold and running away. But ECU just absolutely ran the ball up and down on that UCF team. The offense only put up 10 points. Gus Malzahn's offense only put up 10 points. And I've seen, earlier this season, Rice Plumlee, I think the quarterback, been running the ball over the place, throwing the ball over the place. He was nowhere to be found for the Knights offense. So, major props to UCF, I mean, to ECU, but UCF, you are just I think you looked ahead. You got cocky. You looked ahead, and you were thinking, "Hey, we got big matchup with Cincinnati this week." And we talked about Trap Saturday. Now they're hosting Cincinnati after that loss, where the game would have been meaning a lot more, and you blew it by losing that trip to Greenville. And it's only going to hurt them going forward down the season.
It wouldn't have been a big deal if they would have lost that game. But losing the way they did and getting blown out traveling up to ECU is completely ridiculous. Like we respect the ECU Pirates quite a bit, Fresh, because we know that is a tricky environment to go into. It's kind of to me, ECU reminds me a little bit about Virginia, West Virginia, more going to Morgantown at a lesser extent. It's not the easiest place to play at. They're always sneaky good over there at ECU. They have they get some players in that area, and they're always competitive. They're well coached, but if you would have gone into that game and lost 35 to 34, 35-31, something like that, you could sit there. I don't necessarily think we consider you a loser because we'd say like,
Hmm.
okay, you're on the road and you have Cincinnati and whatever. But my goodness, this was awful. Awful job.
Yeah,
But, screw you, Gus Malzahn, because you don't sign autographs for little kids. Okay, Fresh.
that was an old school. That was an old school butt whooping.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, Fresh. My other loser was the Texas Longhorns, man. All right, Texas. Let me tell you something here. You had everything in front of you. You have the schedule in front of you. You had a shot. You came in and you absolutely boat raced Oklahoma. You destroy them in Red River rivalry. You see Texas and they're picking up. You had a close win, but you had a big win at Iowa State. And you're going in and you say, "Man, we got a ranked team against Oklahoma State," and you blow it. You blow it. You let Oklahoma State score 14 points in the fourth quarter, and Texas, you only put up 3 in the second half. Quinn Ewers throwing 3 interceptions. I don't know what to think about Steve Sarkisian, man. One minute he looks like the greatest offensive mind. He's taken Texas back to their glory days, and he's beaten Oklahoma by 7 touchdowns and shutting them out. And then he's coaching his guts off against Matt Campbell. And then a game like this happens. And it's a complete letdown. Like I think a game like this would tick me off so much more if I was a Texas fan than if I get destroyed by my rival or if I get destroyed in another game. Because you're right there. You make a play or two. Bijan Robinson, 24 carries, 140 yards, and a touchdown. And then Rashad Johnson, 5 carries and 73 yards and a touchdown. You had over 200 yards rushing. Quinn Ewers threw for didn't even complete 50% of his passes, and he still threw for 300 yards. Texas, you gave up 391 yards to Spencer Sanders. And I like Spencer Sanders. Don't get me wrong. Kid's a heck of a ball player. But Texas, like, I I I I don't even know, man. I really don't. Like, if I'm a Longhorns fan, I would love like to talk to a couple Longhorns fans and how frustrated you have to be after this loss.
I mean, you blew a double digit lead in the fourth quarter. You threw a couple picks, including the last drive. Um, you had a touchdown pass to Worthy, which should have been a touchdown pass, and it kind of just looked like Worthy was lost, or he started tripped in the end zone, and the ball was about like a yard to his right. Um, just very dysfunctional in the fourth quarter. Like they thought they had to build the big lead. I'm going to say very similar to last year's uh, Red River rivalry, where Texas built that huge lead in the first half, and then Oklahoma and Caleb Williams stormed back and beat them. And everyone thought Texas was going to blow them out, and they just sort of took their foot off the gas, and they weren't as aggressive. They kind of got lazy, and they let the cowpokes come back at home and take them. Um, you know, like we said, that was a separation point of which team is going to stay in the race and maybe save their season and move forward, and which team is going to just be exit the chat and become just another school and play out the rest of their schedule. Oklahoma State, Coach Gundy and that team, maybe not the best team on the field for the first 50 minutes, but for 10 minutes in that game, including the last 5, they dominated and they came out victorious. And they're going to keep moving forward. If they can just stay out of their own way and maybe win back-to-back bedlams, they put themselves most likely playing TCU for a title, and they have a chance to redeem for last year, and stay alive and maybe win a crown. But they can't let a game like this get out of control. They've got to dominate from start to finish, or they won't be lucky the next time they kind of sort of wait around and mess around and find out at the end.
All right, Fresh. Got any more losers?
Pitt Panthers, what happened, you guys? Started off, had that game versus West Virginia. I think we all should have paid more attention to that. We gave you guys the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, it was a great game, season opener, and then you played competitive versus Tennessee, and now you're not ranked. You're just stumbling through. You lose, this past week, and it it definitely shows you're missing more than just Jordan Addison and Kenny Pickett. There's a lot going on. The defense, who has a lot of preseason All ACC players, they aren't getting stops and aren't getting off the field, and you had chances to maybe still keep yourself in that race to go defend your play for a title and defend your side of the bracket and defend your conference championship. Um, that's faded. It's you kind of hope, for Pat Narduzzi in that program that it doesn't stumble into next year and they kind of rebound, but not the great way, especially considering the ACC has been not as complete as we thought it would be.
Yeah. We were so high on Pitt, and they started out the year. But you want to know one thing, Fresh? Me and you, everyone else had Pitt ranked in their preseason top 25, and we didn't. And a lot of people are like, why don't you have the Pitt Panthers ranked in top 25? And I think both of us said, like, there'd be, if we went to top 30, we'd probably have them in like the 26 to 30 range going into the season. But we felt like there was so much they lost, and we felt like that there's so many questions that we had, and that was such a magical run last year by Pitt. We just didn't know if they could duplicate it a second time. So I don't know. I like the Pitt Panthers still. I still think that that's a great football program over there. They're just having a really down year. So I think Narduzzi is the right coach that can get that like pulled back together eventually. I don't think like this isn't a fire the coach, blow everything up type of thing, but they have a lot of long looks in the mirror to get that team better.
Mhm. Definitely.
All right, Fresh. My next loser, I'm going into the MAC. Maction there. This was a game for first place in the MAC, the Toledo Rockets. And listen, man, I this is like a mini loser to me because I knew this was possible of happening. Toledo jumps out to a big lead. They're up 27-10 going into the fourth quarter, and they let the Buffalo Bulls score 24 unanswered points in the fourth quarter and shut down the Toledo offense. The Toledo offense is usually electric at times, and we felt like that's one of the one things that Toledo had more than anyone else in the MAC is they have this offense that's really, really good. And they struggled, especially in the fourth quarter. Their quarterback throws 4 interceptions in that game. I don't know. I wanted this was a good game. This was a good game. I kind of glanced over it from time to time when I was able to, but you just you just wish that Toledo would have had a better showing in that fourth quarter. So that's why I don't want to like fully say like they're a loser because they're still pretty good at 5-3 and 3-1 in the conference. Buffalo's also 5-3 and 4-0 in the conference. They're the two. I feel like they're really the two best schools in the MAC right now, and they're kind of. I believe they're on the same side, if I'm right.
Yeah, they're on the same side. So that's a huge win for Buffalo to, you know, just you're not really expected to win. You've been having a great year, but everyone's thinking, hey, you guys are the underdog. It's a cute story. You're at home, and they come out and they fight and they play through it and they get the win. And now they're a chance, to really make some history and play for a potential conference title. They can just take care of business and be focused. Don't get too high now that you've beaten Toledo, but sort of maintain your mental state and take one game at a time. And if before that, you could find yourself in Detroit playing for a MAC championship.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing because the MAC is. I mean, look at they're. I'm sorry, they're on opposite ends of there. So the Ohio
Oh,
Bobcat.
that's definitely a rematch potential.
Yeah, rematch potential there. But you look at like one side of the MAC that Buffalo's in, and it is you were right though. It's a huge win for Buffalo because the OU Bobcats are 3-1 in the conference and 5-3 overall. And then you look at our producer Drew's alma mater, Bowling Green Falcons. They're 4-4 overall, but 3-1 in conference. And that's going to set up for a couple of really big matchups coming down the season in the MAC. So you know, that's that's the most underrated thing. Like on Tuesday nights and on Wednesday nights, because the MAC is about ready to shift their schedule. Like they will stop playing on Saturdays and they play on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights. And if you get a chance, throw those games on because I'll tell you, they're not the best football you're going to watch, but they're entertaining as all get out. So it's like fun football to watch.
And action on Tuesday night in November is a lot of fun.
It is. All right, Fresh, where else you got?
Well, I don't know if it's a loser. I kind of just feel bad for Syracuse and those referees sort of jobbing them in Clemson. Yeah, you were up 21-10 and lost 27-21, but there was just some. there's some calls in that fourth quarter that make you just so, really made you scratch your head a little bit. It just didn't feel right. Got to give credit. Still Clemson won the football game and Syracuse couldn't stop from scoring, but there were definitely some flags against Syracuse or calls that were made that maybe should have been made that weren't. Just sort of makes you really want to, just take a deeper look. And you kind of feel bad for Syracuse, but you also they still couldn't get the job done anyway. And in the end, it's still getting on the field, but it just had left a bad taste in your mouth the way the game ended.
Yeah, I don't even want to get started on that because of my disdain for Dabo and Clemson, man. Because I looked at that game and I saw Syracuse, they're rolling. I'm like, this doesn't sit right with me. Fresh, my last.
It just
Go ahead.
no, it was just a really. I totally get where you come from. It didn't feel right.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, my last loser of the weekend is the Mississippi State Bulldogs. I get it. You're playing Alabama. You get a late 6 points in the fourth quarter here. Alabama just comes in and just completely dominates you offensively. And, I expect more from Mike Leach and the Pirate. I expect more from the Bulldogs at times. I expect them to be better offensively than what they were. Will Rogers doesn't even really complete 50% of his passes or right at 50%. They don't get the run game going. It's only 2.4 yards a carry. And remember, Mississippi was the 24th ranked team according to the AP polls right now. I'm looking forward to the college football committee releasing their polls because I like that they watch every single game instead of these just nameless voters who just submit names regardless. Um, I don't know, man. I expected more from Mississippi State. Alabama, I'm glad they bounced back from that tough loss to Tennessee, but Mississippi State definitely a loser this weekend.
Yeah, they had their chance. You have Alabama reeling and coming off a very emotional and tough loss up in the Rocky Top, and you have a chance to jump on them. And you kind of just faded from the situation. So that means this next week, Mississippi State will look like world beaters, and we'll again be like, man, they're actually might be not bad. But it was a chance where they had to really, you know, show that they're that next level football team, and they didn't want to take that jump.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Fresh. That's this past weekend. But now it's time to move to week number 9. Big weekend for you, my friend. Georgia, Florida. It's the cocktail party down here in Jacksonville. Huge game for you. I know as a Georgia fan, we're definitely going to be talking about that. But we got a loaded slate coming up here, week number 9. It's a lot to talk about. We have a lot of games that we're going to have to shuffle through.
Yeah, this is the game one of the next four for Georgia that will really show, is this team truly the number one team in the country? Are they truly ready to go? Or they have they played some lesser competition and was the team not ready? Because you got Florida in the rivalry game, then you got Tennessee, then you got Kentucky and Mississippi State. So it's going to be four competitive games. And rivalries, makes it competitive, on paper and just that whole emotion thing going on there. But it's going to be a stretch run for Georgia to really show if they are, you know, who we all think they are, or if they're, still trying to mature and grow off last year's squad. But we have a lot of stretch run, and you can't win all four if you don't win the first
Yeah, it's going to be a fun week of football, man. Fun week. And then a couple days later, we get our first college football poll out.
one. College football poll could be just as scary as Halloween.
It will be, my man. It will be. All right, folks. Want to send a special thank you to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this would be possible. He's got a big rivalry game coming in a few weeks. Toledo versus Bowling Green. Gotta love that rivalry. We gotta talk about that one. But remember, we are part of Spinnable Sports. So make sure you are going to spinnablesports.com. Yep, that's spinnablesports.com. Definitely some interesting stuff out there this week. So make sure that you're checking it out. Like, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Good Pods, Stitcher, Amazon Pods. I don't know them all. So wherever you get your podcast from, like, subscribe, leave us that 5-star review because you guys know Fresh and I, we're those 5-star prospects. If you're watching this on the YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel as well. Every week, we're releasing 2 videos out every single week. We got a couple of interviews out there. A couple days ago, we did a Twitter space where one of our great interviews, Coach Paul McCord, came on, answered a bunch of football questions. Absolutely loved it with him. He's a great interview, so go back and check that one out. And we also have our interview with Chris Davis, who is one of our EA Sports writer and designer, talking about NCAA football. So that YouTube channel is filled with all sorts of good stuff. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button, and we'll be bringing you one heck of an episode coming up here for week number 9. It's a big one, folks. So lock yourself in.
Can't wait to record that. Cocktail party week, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye, y'all.